to our friends. Hi, yes, Doc South here with yet another great person from my past. I gotta say, I would suggest you do this as well. It's kind of fun. All you do is just sit somewhere quiet and think back to people that had a good influence on you, and just remember them. Think, gosh, what was it about them? Why were they so special? That kind of thing. Um, I gotta say, that I've been enjoying it. Now I don't know if you're enjoying the videos or not. Although people are writing in saying, "Gee, it's not a bad idea, Doc, what you're doing," and I'm kind of tickled. But I've found, a lot of times I think we dwell on the rotten things that happened in the past, and if we search our memory banks for the good things, well, I don't know, somehow your life just seems to feel a little, your present day life seems to be a little better for it. I don't know. I'm just saying. Today, for instance, again, if you want a way to start, just start thinking about some of your teachers. Now, I know you had some teachers, and I know I did too, who were, pretty much turkeys. But you also had some that were pretty darn good. Okay. Well, at West Morris, there was a teacher there taught science. I think he was also one of the wrestling coaches, and all around a pretty nice guy, Mr. Day. Yep, Mr. Day. He, well, for me, I think he may have taught general science, but I think he also taught earth science, which to me was fascinating. First off, Mr. Day wasn't that old a teacher back in the day. He was, I imagine he was maybe 2 or 3 years out of, teacher school when he was working with us. Tall, skinny guy. I think if I recall right, he drove a Volkswagen, Volkswagen Beetle. And he probably needed the hatch on top, where you could stick your head out to drive. Yeah, because he'd be like, yeah. But I remember earth science being, I think we had his very first I think I was in his very first earth science class. I was probably a junior, maybe a senior, and I loved it. It was all things about the earth, geology and that kind of thing, and oceanography. And it was sort of a smorgasbord of all the things the earth does. I think for a while we talked about the sun, the moon, orbits, and then eventually we got into something I really dug was fossils. And what would that be? Geology? Yeah, the study of rocks, right? What would it be? Paleontology would be the study of fossils. I'm not sure, but it was that was fascinating. Because now here's something he did. Some of the students who wanted to do so could go rock hunting with him on weekends, which I often raised my hand for that. Myself and 2 or 3 of my friends, we'd pile into that Volkswagen, and we'd be all like, like this. We were pretty happy to get to the, wherever the fossils might be. But Mr. Day knew where these darn things where you might have be able to find them. I guess he looked them up on geographical maps and said, here, this outcropping is from the Mesolithic Cretaceous Vazanga. We should find brachiopods, which I think was some kind of snail. It kind of looks like when you get shells, stuffed shells, for spaghetti, for a pasta dish. These things kind of look like that, only no ricotta cheese. And so he said, now look, he says, it's supposedly on the map here. We've got to go in about 150 feet from the road, and there should be an outcrop. He had like these, I was going to say National Geographic did them. No, the Geographic Society of America, or they would make these contour maps, and they would show things like outcrops and such. And he said, there should be an outcrop about 100 yards in, off to the left. Let's go look. And darned, bang, there it was. Yeah. And we said, how'd you find that? You've been here last year, right? He says, no, it's on the map right here. See, look, you guys got to learn to read maps. Next, we're in, it's Saturday and we're in earth science class again. So we'll take notes later. Let's look for fossils. And, you start knocking at the outcrop, with your geology pick. Next thing you know, bingo, there's a brachiopod sitting in your hand from millions of years ago. I don't know. It was kind of cool. And there was a place down near down near Sandy Hook, on the road to Sandy Hook, somewhere along there near Keyport, in that neck of the woods again. There were cliffs, not high cliffs, 50 feet maybe, not too bad. They were mostly made of loose, sandy. It was sand that was kind of stuck together, but it was also kind of loose. You could break it with your geology, with the pointy end of your geology hammer, and you do that, and all of a sudden these big old shells would come out of would just fall out of the dirt. They were everywhere. Who'd have thought? And yeah, gosh, and they were great. They were like the size of 2 or 3 walnuts. Picture a walnut and then 3 times the size. I mean, and it was, again, a gazillion years ago. God, we're finding them. And I remember, Mr. Day, you actually turned us all on to McDonald's. Yes, he got us hooked on fast food. It turns out this would have been in the 60s. McDonald's weren't necessarily everywhere. But he said, he says, guys, there's a McDonald's over in Perth Amboy. Let's go see if we can find it. And we'd go, and doggone, there you are, a McDonald's. It had the golden arches and all that. You couldn't go in. You had to get your order on the outside. And what was it? Gosh. Someday there'll be McDonald's will be fossils, won't they? I mean, yeah, someone didn't want one, throws it. Someone in a million years from now will say, there were highways near here somewhere, and people threw out litter. Let's see what maybe we can find. There'll be, maybe my hamburger wrapper will be unearthed. But the thing is, the hamburgers. I think it was three hamburgers, fries, and a soda was 95 cents. Yeah, it was. Oh, yes, it was. You got a nickel back. And they were good. Oh, my gosh, yeah. So from then on, we were always looking for, if I was out with my friends and stuff, we'd be looking for McDonald's. There's one, let's go. And it was a whole new thing. But, there were things like you could find fossilized giant ferns. Yes. That was, we had to go out more towards coal country for them. They seemed to be in the coal deposits. And you'd find these. Now, they weren't made of coal, the fern fossil. It was evidently there were ferns the size of oak trees at one time. Yeah. And, we were finding hunks of them. Trilobites out near, I think, Stroudsburg, PA. There was an outcrop. Again, like a cliff, and they'd let you go in there and pick away, and doggone if you wouldn't find a trilobite. And further up the Delaware from Stroudsburg, between Stroudsburg and Port Jervis, there are these cliffs, these rather high cliffs on the Pensy side, and you'd be surprised the different fossils you'd find there, and amazing. And again, I think, Mr. Day kind of took the idea of showing us that that the textbooks were actually right. Because we used to read them, you're like, this can't be. Yeah, math, what? Who needs geometry? The thing is the book would say if you go into a Mesolithic outcrop, you'll find a Mesolithic fossil. And there it is. There it was. The guy who wrote the book was right, for crying out loud. Mr. Day. Yeah. Neat guy. No, I never took wrestling or anything, but he was the coach. And I liked living. Yeah. don't think I would have been that great a wrestler. And oh no, just a decent fella. I think in later years, I think on occasion he might. I think the wife and I, Sandy and I, had an antique shop in Long Valley, and I think on occasion he dropped in. I seem to remember that was now years ago, but nice fella, nice fella, and again an influence. Just it's I do suggest you give this a whirl for yourselves with your own lives. Think back to the people that really gave you some insights and guided you along the way, or were just plain interesting. Well, I'm telling you, if you sit down and think about it, the supply is endless, which is kind of a cool thing. Sort of like it's sort of like looking for fossils in the sand cliff. Yeah. Hey, I'll see you later, friends. Thank you, and God bless.